Oh. Welcome everyone to Real Estate with Gwen Price, and we're doing our monthly market update. I've got with me Lana Watier, my broker of record with Keystone Real Estate, and Trina Tallon, a mortgage agent with Neighbourhood Dominion Lending. Morning,
Good
ladies.
morning.
Hi.
Morning.
So just quickly, I'll go over the stats. Really, the average sale price hasn't changed much from last month. So there may be a bit of a leveling off going because we're at about 382 for the city of Greater Sudbury. Last month we were about 386s. So not a great big leap forward, but I mean, it's up 26% from last year at this time. So the listings are up, the sales are up, but we still are in a seller's market. There's still everything that's being listed is selling. We're at 106% sales to list ratio, which shows a lot of places are going over list price. But I looked at the sales this morning and I would say maybe it's half and half. Some are going over and some are slightly under or maybe close to. So there may be a shift. Who knows? I don't know. I just kind of look at it every month and think, okay, well, whatever. But
I have seen a bit of a shift as well. I've noticed in the last several weeks. It has helped that we've gotten a lot more listings on the market, so that's great.
Yeah.
But there is a shift there where I find that buyers they're being a little bit more circumspect on what they're going to pay. And yes, we're still having bidding wars, and yes, that's still happening, but there are more often than not properties that are not getting multiple offers, and they are, the buying public does feel that they're overpriced. So people that are trying to jump into the market, that are trying to take advantage of the high prices, you still have to be cautious on your list price, because buyers, and they're tired. Buyers are tired. They're tired of the competitions, and they're tired of being forced to overpay for what they want. Some are still doing it, and that's completely fine. But, it is changing. There is a shift there. And I think we're going to see that continue, in my opinion, for the rest of this year.
Yeah, it's not as fast and furious as it was. And Trina, I know there's some changes to the mortgage, the stress test. Can you tell us a bit about that? What happened? It was June the 1st, it changed?
On June 1st. So if you did not have an accepted offering by June 1st, then you're qualified now at 5.25 instead of 4.79 as a minimum, or it's the contract rate of the mortgage plus 2%. So the reason why that's in there is there are rates out there that people have to pay if there's like a bit of bruised credit, or they need higher affordability ratios or things like that, where their contract rate for 5 years might be 3.59 or 4.59 or anything like that. So they're adding 2% to that to qualify.
And is that the government's trying to cool things off, excuse me, in the real estate market? What's the idea behind changing the stress test?
It reduces people's affordability, and they're hoping that that's going to reduce housing prices. But when the stress test, I went back through history, like I've been going back through client files because people are refinancing and things like that. So I go back to look to see what I was qualified them at a couple of years ago, and it was like 5.34. So it bounces all over the place. They use it as a mechanism to try and either boost the economy or cool it.
Yeah. Well, and certainly, I mean, we've experienced kind of what we think is crazy prices, but it's even worse in other centers, right? It's so it's sort of, I mean, I guess Big Brother's trying to save us from ourselves, getting in over our heads and having more than we can carry and afford.
Well, yeah, people, they don't want people, the banks don't want to be in the home ownership business. Yeah. They want to be in the lending business, and they don't want people to overextend to the point where, they're going to compromise their affordability and compromise their credit and lose their homes. Banks don't
Yeah.
want to be in the home ownership business.
No.
They want to collect their mortgages and their interest and
Yeah.
move on. So, you know, it's one of those things that I think people are going to have to realize that there's a little bit less to what they can afford. So, and I think it's a good thing. I don't think it's, you know, it's probably going to be frustrating for some buyers because they don't qualify for as much as they want to spend, or the housing that they want to buy is priced at. But I think in the long run, it can't hurt us. We don't want to get into the situation back in where they happened in the States with the banks there. Like their banking system is different, but you know, I think it's for the best. If you can't afford it, then you shouldn't be buying. You know.
So anyone who did get a pre-approval before June 1st needs to get a new pre-approval done.
Yeah, well, that's important to know, especially in this market when things are crazy and people are still shopping and there are still competing situations happening. You don't want to suddenly be at the top of your budget and now you're over budget. So.
Do you think also, I mean, we've got a strike with one of the local companies, Valet, which is a major employer. Do you think that's cooling things down a bit? Do you think we're going to, if it goes on too long, it might have a big effect? But right now, do you think there's any effect with that?
I've heard a few stories where some Valet employees wanted their houses sold really fast because they figure the strike might be coming. As far as what it does to the future, this is just my own personal opinion. I can't see it having much effect, except that if it drags on, I might go buy a quad from somebody.
Well, that does happen during any long strikes, and it did the last time. All the toys were for sale, right? The boats.
Well, and I think that's it's all going to depend on the length of the strike, right? I mean, when we had that 𝐋𝐀𝐃𝐀𝐄 strike a decade ago or so, it lasted a while, and people did, you know, they gave up their toys and things like that. So the market was flooded with, you know, boats and quads and snow machines and all that kind of stuff.
One thing that I found interesting, and it might have just been a coincidence, FCT, First Canadian Title, who is one of the 3 title insurance providers in Canada, or I'm going to say Ontario, because I can't speak for the rest of Canada. They are no longer, as of June 5th, they're no longer honoring title claims for open permits, permits not being taken out on things that got done in a house. So decks, whatever. If it was done without a permit, it was supposed to have a permit, they're not covering it. Septic, not covering it. There's a list of about 6 things, and those are the main things that I'm drawing from the top of my mind. There are 2 other, and I found it really interesting that it happened right around the time that the strike vote happened. Because years ago, shortly after the last strike that happened in 2009, 2010, the title insurance companies put caps on how much people could put in for a claim of $30,000. And the reason for that is that so many things got built, roofs got done, all kinds of things happened during that last strike where permits weren't pulled and should have been. So there are 2 title insurance companies that are still offering like the $30,000 cap on a claim, and the lawyers are all aware of this, of course. So, but just an interesting little movement in the background that I've not seen it in any media or anything like that. That all of a sudden they're just pulling it.
It's a coincidence that it's right when the strike happened, but it could be tied to the pandemic as well.
It's Sudbury only.
Much building is going on right now. There's so many, like you can't get a stick of pressure treated wood anywhere. So there's a lot of decks going up, and I would expect that, you know, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be done that has been done in the last year without permits. So that's a really important thing to know.
Absolutely. And they did it just for Sudbury.
Only here.
Well,
everybody's really handy in this town, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of Uncle Mo's out there doing a lot of renovations that they really,
Yeah, no, and I mean, there are certain things, absolutely up front that you need a permit for, but sometimes they think, oh, I don't really need a permit for that. But yeah, you do.
Well, the interesting thing is that, and it's coincidences, right? I cannot tell you the number of calls, but nobody asks me about title insurance. And last week, I had so many calls from clients who have offers in on properties asking for my advice as to what they should do about title claims, because
Wow.
they're like, well, I have an offer on this house and it's firm and I don't think the deck had a permit, or my realtor doesn't think that the deck was built with a permit. And I'm just like, you can't talk to me about this. I can't help you. I can't give you advice. You need to talk to your lawyer.
There have been a lot of, it's funny you say that, Trina, because just in my business, in our brokerage, Gwen, there have been a lot of deals that have been firm, and suddenly there are open permits and there's a title insurance claim that's pending, or, so it's happening out there. So I'm not surprised that people are inquiring about it. But yes, that is a question for the lawyers for sure.
Absolutely. And there are some in the province of Alberta, the lenders actually pull title.
Really?
As part of, I'm 99.9% sure it's Alberta. Because I remember when I was with the bank, being in class with people from across Canada, and one of them had said that they actually have to pull title as part of like setting up the financing to see if there are any issues.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Instead of like, 10 days before.
Well, I mean, there's so many different things, interprovincial, but even, following some of the American realtors and how they handle different things down there. I mean, and often it is because of situations that have arisen about, title insurance or title claims or all these different issues. And then so they start adding layers and layers of things to their offers, right? And we, the paperwork now from when I started to now for an offer is huge.
Considerable.
Yeah, it's a big difference, right?
Yeah, considerable.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. And I'm on a video conference call with 2 Northern Ontario MPPs at 10:30 to talk to them about what's happening in the mortgage industry, what's kind of not so much in the real estate market, but how what's happening in the real estate market is affecting the mortgage industry. And it's going to be very interesting to get their perspective on what they think and feel about what's happening. Because one of my biggest things that I'm going to bring up is that the right hand doesn't talk to the left hand in our industry. And we've really seen it a lot through COVID, where lenders are doing one thing, appraisal institute's doing something else, the title companies are doing something else, the lawyers are doing something else. And sadly, most of that information is not passed on to the real estate agents. And so, the majority of the calls that I have the last week from clients asking me about title insurance was because their realtors suggested to them that things didn't have permits. And I said to the client, that if you're aware of something not having a permit prior to, then you can't put in a title claim.
Well, and that's something that I've explained to a lot of people over the years I've been in real estate as well. And this is coming from a local lawyer who I've had this conversation with several times. Is you have to be careful what you ask, and you have to be careful what you want. You have to really think about what you want to know, because once you know, you can't unknow. So do you want the lawyer to do all the title searches and see about open permits and all that kind of stuff, or do you want to buy your title insurance policy and let it ride and take your chances? Because once the seller discloses or says, I didn't have a permit for this deck, well, then you know, then you're not covered under your title insurance policy any way, shape, or form. So those are questions that, it's a gray area. You really have to be confident in what or sure about what you're asking before you ask. And that's definitely a
Absolutely.
conversation with your lawyer. That was a conversation I had with Murray Scott, who is no longer with us here in Sudbury, great lawyer in town. And yeah, that was his advice. You have to be careful what you ask, because once you know, you can't unknow. So.
Yeah, well, interesting times, and Sudbury still, I mean, from the outside perspective, people still consider us a deal, and they are coming here and they are buying property and waterfront property. I've been surprised by some of the prices that, you know, that have been going on, and it's really definitely, we still have that COVID effect where people are wanting, you know, to have a nice place to live if they're going to be shut down in a home. And
Yep.
you know, not everybody can afford a cottage and a house, so waterfront has sort of changed where they want to have it all in one place. So there's different things going on, and but Sudbury's still a pretty good place to live, and
It is. It's
yeah.
a great place to live. We've got, you know, the most lakes and city contained lakes in the world. You can drive in 20 minutes in any direction and hit a lake to sit on or walk around or swim in. So, you know, it's fun, Sudbury. We've got a lot to offer, and the prices, you're right, Gwen, are significantly lower than some of the other centers that offer similar amenities to us. So
For sure.
Yeah.
it's a good place to live.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, ladies, and we'll talk again next month and see how things have progressed, and wish you all the best. Enjoy this hot weather. It's pretty, it's over 30 degrees again today, I think. So I'm going to attempt some more gardening.
Oh, wear your hat.
I will wear it.
Bobby
And
Dyson, your
see,
original.
oh, I know I got to wear sunblock like crazy too. So, but have fun, enjoy.
Enjoy your June.
Thanks,
Okay,
lady.
Take care.
care.
Bye.